today I'm going to beat Pokemon Emerald with Flygon, the Pokemon that should have got a Mega Evolution. Instead, we got Donut Salamence. Yeah, okay, well, let's get into it. The rules for this playthrough are in the description, but in short they are: I can only use my starter in battle, no items in battle except for held items, no glitches or exploits, and no TM32 until level 100. So Flygon has incredible stats. It has 100 attack and 100 speed, and then 80 in all 4 of its remaining stats: HP, defense, special attack, and special defense. In a lot of these videos that I play, 80 is like the highest possible stat my Pokemon ever has access to, so this one should be a breeze. I am hoping for a short video. After all, we've had some long videos in December, so it's time for a bit of a contrast. The ground dragon type in Generation 3 has only 2 weaknesses, a 4 times weakness to ice and a 2 times weakness to dragon. Also, it has an immunity to ground and electric attacks, electric because it has the ground typing, and ground because it has the ability levitate. In all my playthroughs, I manipulate my starter so that it has the ideal stats and ability, that sort of thing. I want to make sure that all these Pokemon are performing at their peak level so that when I compare them at the end of the video, it is fair for each one of them. So I have to decide on what nature I want my Pokemon to have. In my prior Emerald videos, I've made a lot of mistakes here, and some of you have suggested that I use a neutral nature, so I'm going to do that today, and I give Flygon a hardy nature. Unfortunately for this incredibly cool green dragon, it does not have a particularly expansive move pool in Generation 3. Through level up, you'd think that this thing is a dark ground type, because until level 35, it only learns moves of these types. It starts with Bite, Sand Attack, Feint Attack, and Sand Tomb, and then through level up, it'll later get access to moves like Crunch, Dragon Breath, and Hyper Beam. So by using TMs and HMs, I'm going to have to get all of my coverage moves. Through these, Flygon can learn Giga Drain, Solar Beam, Iron Tail, Earthquake, Dig, Flamethrower, Fire Blast, Rock Tomb, Steel Wing, and Fly. Alright, so that sets the stage for the playthrough. Now let's talk about something that you might have noticed in these early battles. Flygon is actually leveling up fairly quickly. When I first started planning this challenge, I figured it would be a little bit annoying because Flygon would have the slow growth rate, but it actually has a medium slow growth rate, which is the growth rate that all of the starter Pokemon have, and it actually means that you level up very quickly early on in the game. So I think that bodes very well for Flygon in this playthrough. In combination with the fact that I played this run at the end of November, I think that Flygon has the potential to clock in with a time that is at the top of my current leaderboard. On the earliest routes of the game, I make use of all of the trainers here, defeating them for their experience points, and then when I arrive at Roxanne, Flygon is level 16. Alright, let's do this. She leads with Geodude. Now in Generation 3, all Dark-type moves deal special damage, and yeah, that means I'm just going to be able to polish off the Geodudes very quickly with Feint Attack. I get a critical hit against the first one, then the second one survives, Roxanne uses 2 potions on it, and then I knock it out. Alright, it's time for the Nose Pass. Despite its name, Flygon actually resists rock-type moves because it's a ground type, not a flying type. So Roxanne's most powerful moves deal very little damage to me, and as a result, I take an easy victory. Next, I battle Brendan. This is an optional battle, but I like to do it just for experience points. What I found in my Emerald challenges is it doesn't really make sense to skip trainers, because then you just pay for it later on. Of all the generations, this is most true in Generation 3, and I think in games like Pokemon Yellow, it does make sense to skip trainers a lot of the time. Flygon has no problems in this fight, and with that, I move on to Dewford Island. Here, I pick up the Silk Scarf, catch myself a Magikarp, which I name Bruno, of course. Then I head into Granite Cave, deliver the letter to Steven, and then it's time to face Brawley. For this fight, Flygon is really at the mercy of its move pool, because Rock and Dark moves are resisted by Brawley's fighting types. Also, I do know Sand Tomb, which is a same type attack bonus move, but it has 70% accuracy and it's really not that good. So I'm going to try for Feint Attack because it has the highest effective power. Looks like it's doing about a quarter to the Machop. Ugh. So it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to win this fight today, just because Brawley has a lot of healing items. His lead takes me all the way down to 5 hit points before I knock it out. Meditite's next, and at least because of its typing, I can do neutral damage to it. Also, there's no way for it to knock me out because its only damage dealing move is Focus Punch. Makuhita's last, and it just finishes me off with its first Vital Throw. Alright, so that's Flygon's first reset. However, unlike a lot of Pokemon that I've played in recent memory, I do not need to skip Brawley right now, because the TM that Steven Stone gave me in Granite Cave is Steel Wing, and I can teach that to Flygon now in the place of Bite. Now I knew that it wouldn't one-shot the Machop, so I was like, well, it makes sense. Let's set up Sand Tomb so it can do some chip damage here and there, and then it just like misses. This move is so frustrating. I cannot wait to not have it on my moveset anymore. So let's just use Steel Wing and knock this thing out. I move on to the Meditite with green health. Then first turn against it, Steel Wing misses, which is really not good. So I'm going to use Feint Attack here so I can't miss. That way Meditite won't do any damage to me. I knock it out. Makuhita's next. I go for Steel Wing, does more than half. It goes for Vital Throw, taking Flygon to orange, and then heals with a Citrus Berry into green. My next Steel Wing takes it to orange, and then it sets up Bulk Up. Okay, I'm not sure if my next Steel Wing is going to knock it out, and in this case, it does. So with that, Flygon's earned itself its second badge. Alright, so let's take a boat ride to Slateport City. By the way, this trip just really piques your interest into this region, and you're like, whoa, what is all this stuff? I want to come check it out later. Once I arrive at the beach, I can talk to this tuber, and she will give me the soft sand, which is going to be very useful for Flygon. On the beach, I do a little bit of extra training. I head into the museum, defeat the Team Aquagrunts here, and then I proceed north towards Mauville City. Quickly stop by the Trickmaster's house to earn myself a rare candy, and then I have to fight Brendan. I 3-hit the Lombre with Feint Attack. Next is Marsh Tomp, and I only actually have 2 uses of Feint Attack left. Because this thing resists Steel Wing, I really didn't want to use it, but I'm going to have to. It does enough damage, and with that, his ace falls. Obviously, Rock Tomb's super effective on the Slugma, it doesn't miss, and with that, I've earned myself passage into the next portion of the game. I grab the coin case. After all, I'd like to buy Flamethrower at some point in this playthrough, and then I pick up the Rock Smash HM. After that, I do some training in the surrounding areas, and I know Flygon isn't going to struggle against Wattson, but I might as well do this training now so that I don't get walled later on against more difficult foes. Plus, this training levels me up so I can learn Crunch, and then I can also pick up the Black Glasses so I can boost this move's power. I defeat some more trainers in the gym, and now, at level 34, it's time to take on Wattson. So this guy is usually really awful, especially because of his Magneton, but today it is going to be easy for Flygon. Well, it would be if I had a good ground-type move, but Voltorb survives Sand Tomb. This move's so bad. And then it just misses on the Electrike. Luckily on the next turn when it hits, it does get a one-hit, which is great. Now Magneton's next, and despite the fact that this thing looks like it's floating and should have Levitate, it does not, and it takes 4 times damage from ground-type moves. I go for Sand Tomb. It doesn't quite knock it out, but the per turn damage that it deals ends up finishing it off. Okay, so all that's left is the Manectric. Didn't want to play around with Sand Tomb's accuracy anymore, so I went for Crunch, and it actually gets a critical hit, knocking it out in 1 turn. So that's perfect. This levels Flygon up to level 35, and it has the chance to learn Dragon Breath here. It's a base 60 power Dragon type move, so it'll have Stab. Unfortunately though, for Flygon, Dragon-type moves are special in this generation, so it isn't utilizing my best offensive stat. Still, at this point, it is going to be better than Sand Tomb. I want to draw your attention to my money here in the game corner, because a lot of you have suggested that I should be buying the TMs here earlier on. Now in this playthrough, I fought like almost every trainer and tried to get as many high-priced items as possible, and yeah, I can only get 2,000 coins, so I'm exactly halfway to buying 1 TM. As I get more and more familiar with these games, I'm going to figure out the earliest possible point to purchase one of these TMs, and then I can implement that in playthroughs, but for now I can't buy one. Still, this portion of the game does give Flygon access to some useful TMs. First, it gets access to Secret Power, which also opens up the TM store in Slateport City so that I can buy Hidden Power if I want it. In this run, I'm going to be going with Hidden Power Ice. You'll see why that's relevant in just a little bit. Next, in Fall Arbor Town, I can pick up the TM for Dig, which is my first good ground type move. Yes, this move only does have 60 base power in Generation 3. Gone are the glory days of base 100 power Dig in Generation 1. I let go of Steel Wing for this move because steel moves are not particularly useful offensively. I take a gondola ride to the top of the mountain, hoping to see a hiker. He's not here today. And then I go up against Maxie. The nice thing in this fight is that I have counterplay to Intimidate, because I can just use Dragon Breath, which is a special move, to knock out his first 2 Pokemon. His ace, of course, is a Camerupt, and while it does no magnitude, it usually never does that on the first turn, so I go for Dig, and I knock it out in a single hit. Winning this battle gives me the chance to pick up the Meteorite, which will be useful so I can exchange it for Return later on, and then I pick up the Charcoal so that I can boost Flamethrower's power when I finally get it. Now, let's face Flannery. Alright, so this is revenge for all of my other runs that have struggled against her, because Flygon is set up for success here. It takes half damage from all the fire type moves, and it also has levitate, so her ground types can't do anything to me with their ground moves. I'm just realizing now that in the last fight I was like, Flygon could get hit by magnitude, but if it uses dig to go underground, and then the opponent uses magnitude, does levitate still stop magnitude from hitting? So I actually spent some time and looked this one up, and yes, levitate will prevent Flygon from being hit by magnitude or earthquake when it is underground using dig. Ah, this feels like some good old Generation 1 logic. I love it. I finished the Torkoal off, and with that, I've earned myself the 4th badge. And the 5th one is coming up in fast succession, because after backtracking through the middle of the map, earning myself the Strength HM, and quickly make my way into the gym leader's room. So, let's do this. Norman leads with Spinda, because Dig is my most powerful move, especially when I'm holding the soft sand, I use it, and I get the one-shot. Vigoroth's next. Dig doesn't one-hit, Norman uses a Hyper Potion, and then I knock it out over the next 2 turns. Time for Linoon. Now instead of using Dig here, I start using Dragon Breath, because I want to knock it out and maintain the power points for Dig. After all, Dig is perfect against the slacking, because I move first, go underground, and then I hit it and I'm above ground when it's loafing around. So by doing this, it can never actually damage me. I just wanted to maintain enough power points on Dig in case Norman's able to heal it enough and stall me out. However, Flygon's doing enough damage, so I knock the slacking out and earn myself the 5th badge. Now I have Surf, so I grab this rare candy that's actually in Petalburg City. I was missing it in a lot of my prior playthroughs, but I'm remembering it now. Then I make a quick stop at Mauville's Game Corner to see how many coins I can purchase. And yeah, I can only buy 1,000 more coins, so even at this point in the game, I am not able to get myself the Flamethrower TM. I defeat Team Aqua in the Weather Institute, earning myself a Cast Form, and yeah, I will announce it now. I am planning to do a Cast Form run in the first few months of 2023. Brendan's next, and yeah, he's still bad. So the only reset that Flygon has to this point is my mistake against Brawley. This thing is just sweeping through the game. It is having a very easy time. And I've prepared this playthrough in a way that will hopefully make things stay easy for the next little while. While Rock Tomb is super effective against Winona's flying types, Hidden Power Ice is much better. It has a higher base power of 70 instead of 50, and it's also 100% accurate. So let's do this. The Parish Song equipped Swablu's first, but Hidden Power knocks it out in a single hit. That's good. She sends in Altaria next. It takes 4 times damage from Hidden Power, so it goes down. So does the Tropius, and I'm also planning to do a playthrough with this thing very soon. I love Tropius's design. It's so cool. You know what's not cool, though? The Pelipper that follows. It just uses Protect, wasting my time. This thing is so frustrating. I think when I finally end up making a video with this awful bird, I will have to use Protect on the first turn of every battle, just out of principle. Skarmory's next. I go for Hidden Power Ice. It does half. Stealing hits me, doing a decent amount. And then my next Hidden Power doesn't knock it out, allowing Winona to heal it with a Hyper Potion. However, then Flygon just gets a critical hit, knocks it out, and that's it. Winona is no more. Okay, so let's collect some items. Here's some Lepa Berries, the Magma Emblem, a rare candy, the TM for return, and with that out of the way, I'm ready to take on the Magma Hideout. Now just before I face Maxie here, I do think it's time to give up Crunch. After all, Return is going to be dealing physical damage, and if we look down in the bottom left, you can see that Flygon's attack stat is much better than its special attack stat. However, after I get hit by 1 Intimidate, my attack stat is not higher than my special attack stat, so yeah, that's annoying. By the way, many of you have suggested that I pick up the White Herb. I keep forgetting to do it, but I am going to do it in future playthroughs. The way that this item works is that when your stats would be lowered, it prevents it and the Pokemon consumes the item. So it's a great way to get around some of these intimidating Pokemon. But are they really? Because Maxie's team just doesn't hold up against Flygon. The coolest looking trainer in the game is next. He leads with a Mightyena as well, but yeah, his team's not very good. I also just used Dragon Breath here to get around the fact that it intimidated me, and then Hidden Power finishes off the Golbat. Now because Tate and Liza are coming up next, I'm going to go to the move reminder and teach Crunch in the place of Hidden Power. I know I just removed this in favor of Return. I wasn't really anticipating what was coming up next, so small mistake from me. At least I can just head to the Slateport TM shop and pick up more TMs for Hidden Power so I can teach it again if I need to. Time to check in with the Game Corner, and here I finally have enough coins to buy myself the Flamethrower TM. So it looks like right now, to the best of my knowledge, I can obtain this sometime after I defeat Winona. However, right now it isn't going to be useful because I have some Psychic types to defeat. Tate and Liza are typically the toughest gym battle in all of Hoenn because I have a Magikarp on my team. I do think this is the fairest way to do a solo challenge. After all, they just knock it out on the first turn, and then from there, it's just the Pokemon I'm doing the run with left over. I knock out the Claydol after using Crunch twice, they send in Lunatone, and Xatu continues to set up Calm Mind. Alright, so before it gets too scary, I want to knock it out. I go for Return. Unfortunately, it doesn't take it down, and then Lunatone goes for Hypnosis, which actually hits and puts Flygon to sleep. Are you kidding me? And then when Xatu attacks, it hits a massive Psychic. And yeah, that's because it got a critical hit. Unfortunately though, I accidentally misclick because my targeting gets reset from the Xatu back to the Lunatone. I still am forgetting this. And as a result, even though I wake up and I hit through confusion, the Xatu knocks me out. Still, my second reset on Tate and Liza, this run is going very well, so all hope is not lost. Also, it probably makes sense to knock the Xatu out first with Return. After all, the Claydol's most intimidating move is Earthquake, and it can't hit Flygon. They send in Lunatone next, and then Claydol sets up Light Screen. Okay, so Crunch is going to do a lot less now. Let's try it anyways. It does almost half to the Lunatone, but then it sets up Calm Mind, boosting its special defense again. Now, this thing is a rock type and it also has Levitate, so I don't really have a good choice here. I tried for Dragon Breath just in case it caused paralysis, but it doesn't and Flygon goes down. Alright, let's try this again. This time I'm going to knock out the Claydol right away so that it doesn't set up Light Screen. Then I can use Crunch on the Xatu, and despite it setting up Calm Mind, this still does more than half, so I'm able to knock it out on the next turn. Okay, so it's time for their aces, Solrock and Lunatone, and while I am able to put out a lot of damage, it's just not enough and eventually Flygon goes down. So the problem here is I just can't last long enough in the fight, and obviously my favorite move can come through here and help out, because I can teach Flygon Rest in the place of Return. After all, there's still another Return TM in Pacifidlog Town, which I'm going to pick up later on. I also replaced my Black Glasses with a Chesto Berry, so now I have Resto Chesto strats. I knocked their Claydol out with 2 hits from Crunch. It's still a 2-hit, even though I don't have the Black Glasses, so that item wasn't useful. And then when I attack the Xatu on the next turn, I actually get a lucky critical hit and knock it out in 1 turn. Alright, that's perfect. Now, even with Light Screen on the field, I'm actually doing decent damage with Crunch. And then as soon as my health gets low, I can just use Rest, heal, eat my Chesto Berry, wake up, and continue to attack. I knock the Lunatone out first so that it can't use Hypnosis, and then I go for the Solrock, taking it down with 1 more hit. Alright, so Flygon did it, Tate and Liza are no more. In the Space Center, I have to fight alongside Steven. This fight's very easy, nothing worth reporting here. After that, I proceed with the plot line, and normally there's nothing really to mention here other than the Archie battle, but today there is, because I get to pick up the TM for Earthquake, and this is a great replacement for Dig. Archie's next, and I really should have a Person Berry here, but whatever. It actually doesn't matter. This fight's really easy. Flygon just sweeps through his team. Rayquaza comes in. It provides its services as a couples therapist for Groudon and Kyogre, and with that out of the way, I am now ready to face Juan. Okay, the mighty Love Disc. I gotta do a playthrough with this thing soon. It goes down to 1 Earthquake. Next is Kingdra. Okay, I use Earthquake again. Takes it down to red health. It uses Double Team, which is annoying. Then Juan uses a Hyper Potion. But my next 2 Earthquakes hit and it still goes down. Celio's next. Earthquake gets the 1 hit. Whiscash is next. Earthquake gets the 1 hit. And finally it's time for the Crawdaunt. And once again, Earthquake gets the 1 hit. So Flygon has reached its final form. It is starting to feel so strong. Okay, so here I want to share a nostalgic memory of Pokemon, and this is actually one of my last nostalgic memories of Pokemon before I stopped playing when Diamond and Pearl came out. My friend and I, when we were playing through Ruby and Sapphire, we were so obsessed with Flygon. We would go to school and talk about this thing endlessly. Like, we wanted to figure out how to get it, and you know the thing is, that we couldn't figure out how to get it because there are basically no trainers that have a Vibrava in the game. And from a design perspective, if you look at Trapinch and then you look at Flygon, you don't immediately put 2 and 2 together and go like, yeah, this little like orange thing that lives in the sand turns into this green dragon. I also think this memory is really special to me now because the internet wasn't really widely available at this time, so I was still sort of living in the bubble where you just talk to your friends at school about Pokemon games and figure things out that way. Anyways, we never actually figured out how to get a Flygon for ourselves, but we just had a lot of love for this cute little goggled dragon. So now I've reached the league, and before I fight the trainers here, I actually remembered to go back and pick up the white herb. So you talk to the person, get the Whalemore Pail, then you go outside and there's this lady standing there. You have to have defeated Wattson, by the way, to be able to receive it. And after that I pick up the TM for Dragon Claw, which is still a special move in this generation, but it does have 10 more base power than Dragon Breath. So with those errands out of the way, let's take on Sydney. He leads with Mightyena and immediately intimidates me, and I'm like, oh yeah, should have remembered the white herb. As a result, my Earthquake doesn't do enough damage. Mightyena uses Sand Attack, lowering my accuracy. Sydney heals with a full restore, and then Earthquake misses. Okay, this fight is not off to a good start. Mightyena goes for Double Edge, doing a little bit of damage, and then my next Earthquake takes it to red. It hits another Double Edge, I miss again, it hits another Double Edge, and then takes itself down with recoil damage. Alright, I guess that's good. I go for Dragon Claw against the Shift Tree, it does more than half. My next one misses, it hits me with extra sensory, and then it goes for Torment. I really hate when this thing uses that move. I decided to go for Rest instead of attacking again so that Flygon can heal, and this ended up being a good play because it gave the Shift Tree time to use Swagger, which actually boosts my attack stat, and Flygon snaps out of confusion and knocks the Shift Tree out, so now I'm in a little bit of a better position, but I still need to take things slow and heal up on the Cacturn before I move on. When I finally start attacking, even a not very effective Earthquake knocks the Cacturn out. Unfortunately, Torment stops me from using it again against the Crawdaunt, so I have to use Dragon Claw. Sydney uses a full restore, and then my Earthquake knocks it out. Alright, all that's left is the Absol, and Flygon has green health, so I'm gonna do this. It was a messy and awful fight, and yeah, there's no excuses for that. I should have used the white herb. Either way, I am moving on to Phoebe. So I figured here that the black glasses would be enough. They do let me take the first Dusclops out in 2 hits, and then the second one comes out, I hit it with Crunch, but yeah, this thing knows Ice Beam. It hits Flygon for a lot of damage, eats its Citrus Berry, and this just takes it out of the range for a KO. Like, it survived with the least amount of health possible. As a result, it hits another Ice Beam and Flygon goes down. Here's the thing though about Dusclops. It's actually a balanced defender, so if I use the Soft Sand, I can actually get Earthquake's effective power higher than Crunch's effective power, and then because of Flygon's attack stat, it's going to do much more damage. So hopefully this will let me get the 2-hit on the second Dusclops. But I just get a critical hit, so it goes down in 1 turn. Perfect. The next Bayonet is a 1-hit, the following Sableye is a 1-hit, and her final Bayonet is also a 1-hit. So, I've made it to Glacia. Now, of all the league members, this one should be theoretically the hardest for Flygon to defeat because all of her ice moves are going to have the same type attack bonus, and they're also going to do 4 times damage. I do get through the first Celio, but then the Glalie comes out, and it uses Ice Beam, and it just one-shots Flygon. So I can teach Flamethrower in the place of Crunch to solve the Glalies, but this doesn't really give me confidence against the Wall Rain because it's only going to take neutral damage. To improve my damage with Flamethrower, I can also equip Charcoal. I decided to test it out against the Celio and nope, this is not doing very much damage. There is no way I'm knocking the Wall Rain out with this move. But maybe it can finish the Glalie off in a single hit. And yeah, the answer is no. It hits an Ice Beam and Flygon goes down again. Okay, so let's use some rare candies. I level Flygon up from level 59 to 63. By the way, in Pokemon games, the damage calculation uses your level, and there's some weird rounding that occurs in this calculation. So at level 63, I'm doing significantly more damage, and this gives me the 1-hit against the Celio. I go for Flamethrower against the Glalie, and this also gets the 1-hit. Okay, so that's a big improvement. I go for Earthquake on the next Celio. This one doesn't do enough because it's 2 levels higher. It sets up Hail, and then Glacia uses a full restore, but my next Earthquake knocks it out. So that means I just have to get a favorable roll against this Pokemon. Her second Glalie's next, I try Flamethrower again, and since this one is also a higher level, it survives, uses Ice Beam, and Flygon goes down. I tried again, hoping that I could get a better roll against the second Glalie, but I can also get a bad roll against the first one. It survives, uses Ice Beam, and yeah, Flygon goes down again. Alright, so I really want to stop the losses from stacking up here. After all, we are on the clock. This is not game time that I'm measuring. So let's use 2 more rare candies, go up to level 65, which is going to be the next level that's ideal for damage rounding. Still at this level, the second Celio can survive Earthquake, surviving by just like a sliver right now. But the second Glalie does go down to Flamethrower, so that's perfect. But now it's time for the Wall Rain, and I have no idea what I'm going to do against this thing. I go for Earthquake, hoping for the maximum amount of damage. It does more than half, and then it hits Ice Beam, which takes Flygon out. Okay, so maybe instead of the charcoal, I should use the soft sand and just use earthquake exclusively. It one hits the first Celio, one hits the Glalie, almost one hits the second Celio, it sets up hail, and then I knock it out with a better damage roll on the second turn. Time for the second Glalie now. I go for earthquake and it also gets the one hit. So that's really good, but I don't see how I'm going to survive a hit from the wall rain. I go for earthquake, it survives, and then ice beam takes me out. All right, no more losses. Let's go all the way up to level 70 with rare candies. Now the problem with this approach is that I'm not going to be able to level up quickly after I defeat Wallace, so the fight against Steven could be quite challenging. At least at this level, I am able to prevent all of Glacia's Pokemon from even getting a single move in because earthquake just one-shots her first 4 team members. All right, time for the wall rain. I am really hoping that this level gives me enough health and defenses to survive an ice beam. I go for earthquake, it takes her ace down to red, and then it hits its ice beam, which doesn't knock Flygon out. Yes! So I finish her off, and with that, I'm moving on to Drake. Now I figured here that using Dragon Claw would be the best approach. After all, it gets the same type attack bonus. But if this isn't working and I need 4 times damage against his Altaria, Flygon, and Salamence, I can teach Hidden Power Ice. But because I had to use so many rare candies for Glacia, this fight is trivial. Flygon one-shots every single one of his team members. The only one that actually took 2 turns was the Shelgon because it used Protect. With Drake out of the way, all that's left for me is Wallace. I was really hoping against him that Earthquake would one-hit the Wailord so that it wouldn't be able to hit me with Blizzard, but I can't one-hit it at this level. The implications of this are that I don't have very much health left over for the rest of the fight. Also, a lot of Wallace's Pokemon have Ice Beam. I'm lucky that I can one-hit the Tentacruel with Earthquake, but Wallace follows it with Milotic, and this thing does have Ice Beam. So Earthquake needs to one-hit. In this case, it doesn't, and Flygon goes down. So I had brought a Petra Berry into that fight because Wallace does like to use toxic strategies, but if I have the Soft Sand instead, maybe I'll one-hit. Nope, the Wailord still survives. But here's a strange quirk of its AI. For whatever reason, it chooses Water Spout, and it has like a sliver left, so it does 3 damage. I think he must have chose Water Spout over Blizzard just because it would have calculated the damage range, and because of the same type attack bonus, Water Spout might have been doing more damage to Blizzard than Flygon in that case. I don't know, that seems hard to believe though, just because Blizzard does do 4 times damage. If you know why the Wailord went for Water Spout here, please let me know in the comments. So I finished the Tentacruel off with another Earthquake, and now it's time to roll for damage against the Milotic. Hopefully I can take it out. Unfortunately, I don't. It goes for Ice Beam, and yeah, it doesn't knock me out, but it does freeze me. Still, that's encouraging, because if I can survive the Milotic's hit, then that means that I'll be able to knock it out. In the next fight, I do, and I move on to the Gyarados, which is next. It gets an Intimidate in, dropping my attack stat, and now I'm like, yeah, I don't really have anything against this. I guess I have to use Dragon Claw. And even with a critical hit, it doesn't knock the Gyarados out, so Flygon feints to Hyper Beam. In the next fight, Wailord freezes me with Blizzard, just great. And then it goes for Water Spout again when it has very little health, this time doing 8 damage, so good job Wailord, you did a little bit more this time. I managed to get back to the Milotic, but it freezes me again. This thing is freezing me way too much. Serene Grace Milotic confirmed. It's also worth noting here that if the Wailord uses Blizzard, I am just going to lose because I'll never survive the Milotic's hit. However, I don't really like resetting in these situations because I could get really lucky, like I could crit the Milotic and then crit the Gyarados, but that's not in the cards today. I tried to see if I could heal against the Tentacruel, but no, that doesn't work because this thing also has Ice Beam. But what if instead of healing on the Tentacruel, I get past the Milotic and then heal against the Gyarados? After all, it does have Dragon Dance, so if it's setting this move up, I might have enough time to wake up and then attack. And then something truly strange happens. The Gyarados uses Earthquake. Does the AI not check if I have the ability Levitate? It must not. That's the only explanation I can see there. And then after this embarrassing move choice, he just starts using Dragon Dance again, and I knock the Gyarados out with 2 hits from Dragon Claw. So that is very strange. Ludicolo's next. I take it out over 3 turns. It does manage to get a Leech Seed in, but that doesn't really matter because all that's left is the Whiscash. I go for Earthquake, it does more than half. Whiscash sets up Amnesia, which doesn't help at all, and then Flygon knocks it out. While I am happy that I won here, this fight was very strange. Like, Wallace made all of the wrong decisions. However, it doesn't really seem like it was bad luck. It seems like Wallace has some weird AI quirks. specifically around how his Wailord interacts with Flygon's typing, and then how his Gyarados interacts with the ability Levitate. Well, a win is a win, so Flygon gets a time finishing the league of 2 hours, 3 minutes, and 2 seconds with 18 resets, and it finished at level 72. This took 7 hours and 7 minutes of game time. But the run isn't over yet because I have to defeat Steven Stone, and he's usually the most difficult trainer of them all. And unfortunately for Flygon, I have no rare candies left, so I really hope that I can get this done at level 72. Skarmory's up first. Obviously, Flamethrower makes sense here. Oh, great, a critical hit, so I knock it out in 1 turn. That's awesome. Next is Aggron, and this thing is a Rock Steel type, so it takes 4 times damage from Earthquake, and I can finish it off in 1 hit. Steven sends in Metagross next. I go for Earthquake. It does more than half. Metagross uses Meteor Mash, which takes Flygon under half. It heals with a Citrus Berry, but that isn't enough, and I finish it with my next Earthquake. Okay, time for Claydol. Now this thing has Levitate, and I am not like Wallace, I know that, so I'm going to use Dragon Claw instead. It doesn't quite do a third, but here's the thing about the Claydol. I can just use Rest to heal here, because it doesn't really have any moves that do much damage to Flygon. Earthquake will do nothing because I have Levitate, and Ancient Power is resisted by Flygon because of my ground typing. Like, look at how little this rock move does. I am not scared of it, even when Claydol gets the Omni boost. I wake up, and then it's a slow fight, but I do manage to take the Claydol out. Up next is Cradily. Obviously, Earthquake makes the most sense here. However, it confuses me with Confuse Ray, and then Flygon hits itself, and Cradyly's second Giga Drain gets a critical hit and does so much damage. But Flygon hangs on with 1 hit point. Okay, so Cradily is not going to get another critical hit like that. Let's use Rest, heal up. And this also has the advantage because I can stall the Cradily out. Its Giga Drain only has 5 PP, so if I just take my time, it's going to start doing a lot less damage because it'll use Ancient Power, and then I can knock it out with Earthquake. This takes a while to pull off. You'll notice here that I'm not using Earthquake anymore. Instead, I'm using Dragon Claw. I just don't want to run out of Earthquake PP before the Armaldo comes out. This actually ends up taking a long time, and I got really worried that the Cradily was going to PP stall me out, and I do not want to have to use Struggle to defeat Steven. However, I do manage to take it down with a decent number of moves left. Now it's time for Steven's last Pokemon. Let's take out the Armaldo. I go for Earthquake, it does more than half. Armaldo strikes back with Slash, doing not very much. And with that, Flygon takes the victory. It defeated Steven Stone on its first attempt. It clocks in with a time of 2 hours, 7 minutes, and 55 seconds with 18 resets at level 73. This took 7 hours and 26 minutes of game time. So what placement do these results earn it in my overall leaderboard? Well, here's the thing. Flygon is just over a minute slower than Rayquaza. It is also faster than both Chimecho and Mewtwo. And it's at this point that I really need to draw your attention to the game time column. If you look at Mewtwo's game time, it is 7 hours and 21 minutes, which is 5 minutes faster than Flygon. And in this case, I do think that game time is the better metric to judge these two Pokemon based on. Also, Chimecho has a slower game time than Mewtwo. I think that the reason that Mewtwo is ranked 4 right now is just the fact that I wasn't very good when I played that playthrough. However, the reason that I wanted to do Mewtwo and Rayquaza so early on when I was so experienced is specifically so that when I make the video Mewtwo vs Rayquaza, we can see just how much I've improved over the next, let's say, year. Still, I'd like to get a little bit more perspective on this data, so let's rearrange this leaderboard and rank it based on game time. If we do that, then Rayquaza is first and Mewtwo is second, followed very closely by Flygon and then Chimecho. Also, Absol then follows Chimecho, and I actually think that that's an accurate portrayal of Absol's abilities. I played very badly with that thing. Anyways, getting back to our cute dragon, this thing performed very well today. So just before I close out, there is one more Pokemon Emerald video for this year, and that will be Delibird on December 24th. But still, until then, there is daily content, so tune in for all of those videos. Like, subscribe, ring the Chimecho, and comment because I gotta read them all. If you support me through Patreon or YouTube memberships, thank you so much. It means the world to me. If you've made it this far, you're incredible. I'll see you tomorrow.